Welcome to the Blackout Show, presented by the Guillen Grid, a show about the Chicago White Sox baseball, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll debate what's working and what's not on the south side of Chicago. It's old school versus new school baseball. And most importantly, we're keeping all the receipts.
What up? It's your boy Justin, and welcome back to the Blackout Show, presented to you by the Guillen Grid. We got Gonzo on the mic. We got Ozzie Guillen Jr. on the mic. Now, Gonzo put in a formal request before the show. He wanted us to tell us our first half, give a brief synopsis, whether it's positive or negative. Gonzo, I'm be completely honest with you. It's negative for me. The bullpen has been in shambles. Rick Hahn told me the money has been spent. That's where he put most of the purse, is in the pen, and it's still the most sensitive part of the 40-man roster. There is no lineage. There is no rhythm. There is no hierarchy. There's just nothing there. It's the land of misfit toys. And I used to be a Hahn bot on the internet. I'm going to come clean. I used to be a Hahn bot. Used to carry water for Rick. I used to carry water for Rick Hahn. But now you get into a situation to where Jake Diekman is now fixed in Tampa. You got Craig Kimbrell winning reliever of the month in the National League, while I have to sit and watch Ronaldo Lopez face Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Hall of Fame Brandon Belt yesterday. So, Hahn, not only have you screwed up my chances as a White Sox fan for going to another parade, but now my bullpen has eroded into Kenyon Middleton being my favorite part of this team on the mound after the sixth inning. So, Gonzo, to that point, it's been absolutely negative. I'm sick to my stomach every time Pedro Grifol walks out on the fucking field and raises his right or left arm, depending on who he thinks can put out the fire.
So you're blaming the bullpen. By the way, that was literally probably how everyone was talking, like on the flight back from the shooting of JFK. That was so sad, the way that you were just putting all those words together. I think it's BS because Ronaldo Lopez was one of the best pitchers in the White Sox last year. And all the White Sox fans were jumping up and down and talking extension. And the White Sox fans need to stop living in 2-week increments. Okay, they live in 2-week waves. This guy's the best player in baseball. Extend him. 2 weeks go by. This guy's the worst player in baseball. My first half takeaway is the inconsistency. I'm going to say it right now because I know people want to hear about it. We dodged the bullets. The Guillens dodged the bullet. I have no idea how mentally, for his sanity of his health, Ozzie would have been with this team if he gotten the chance to manage them. If he had this record, there would have been so many blowups. He probably would have been fired already at this point because he would have said something to piss somebody off. But man, very, very lucky that he did not get picked as a manager, even though the money would have been amazing. Because everything that we were worried, you create a positive list and a negative list, and the positive is always the money, and the negative is always the money because you got to pay more taxes. But the positive is always the money. But there was a list of a lot of positive things, injuries, they can always get better, young team, good pitching coach, growth. There's a lot of unknowns, but a lot of talent. But the list of everything that could go wrong, man, it has gone wrong and to another level of going wrong. So I think it's just been a disappointment because I didn't think they were going to run away with the division, but they're playing even below Tony La Russa's White Sox. So they're underperforming even from where I thought that they'd be at. They're extremely underperforming. And it hasn't been something that people are going to blame April. This team has not put a winning streak of 5 or 6 games. Like they're allergic to winning 2 or 3 in a row. They find ways to lose games, even when other teams give it to them. For example, the game last night, Luis Robert has one of the best home runs I've seen in a long time, just because I like the way how he looked at the bat. I love when guys taunt without having to flip the bat. I'm not a huge bat flipper guy, but he hit it and he did the Mike Piazza, like stared at it like, oh my, like I just smoked it. One of my favorite taunts, which is really cool. 450 feet, 2 runners on, you take the lead. 250 feet, 450 feet in quotations mark. I was more like 420.
Yeah.
NBC
it was like
Sports
433.
It was like 423 with some juice. Not a lot of guys hit it 450. That's Jim Thome area right there. 450 is a lot. But White Sox fans are like 450. Oh my god! And Chuck and my dad put the thing there. Longest home run of the season. And White Sox fans are all going nuts. It's all media stuff, guys. 430 maybe. But then he hits that awesome. They're still tweeting about it right now. Their manager didn't talk about it. The fans didn't talk about it. The fact that Luis Robert came up with less than 2 outs with a runner on third base with a tying run on an amazing triple, by the way, of a Tim Anderson, showing the flashes of what Tim Anderson's potential really is. If I was scouting to trade Tim Anderson, I would have gotten a little excited there with a little Woody. Okay? Because when he turned it up and you saw that speed, you say legs healthy. He looked really, really good. He doesn't drive the run in. Doesn't hit the run. They're pitching him outside. They're basically telling him, don't take us deep. Hit the ball the other way. He doesn't execute. And then no one talks about it because everyone's still talking about the home run that happened freaking 5 innings ago. So that's my problem with this team is the inconsistency, the fact that they can't put successes in a row, the lack of fundamentals. And man, if the people thought the Guians talked a lot, this team talks so much on so many promises. This team is like the father who tells you he's going to take you to go eat ice cream every weekend, and he never shows up. Just breaking promises left and right. Legitimately, from the moment of the first press conference till now, it's just lies after lies after lies after lies after lies.
Hey, OJ.
No, I'm saying that.
Rick Hahn told me these boys going to go on a run this afternoon.
No, again,
he said.
But he just said it again. He said, we're going to do damage in October. And again, I'm not being mean. I'm literally re-quoting the person. But not just that. Like, they say Michael Kopech, he's not feeling good. It's just fatigue. And then you find out he's on the IL because he's hurt. Oh, Moncada is just a couple days. The guy's got a freaking herniated back. Can't play. It's been almost 35 plus days. It's been a month. So like that lack of honesty with just the team themselves, there's none of that. You come out 2 days ago and say, oh, we're not going to be sellers. We'll win a couple games or win the run. And you're like, again, we're not baseball experts. We all have like our expertise, but we're not dumb. Like White Sox fans, as much fun as they make of them, they have weird takes sometimes, but they're not dumb. You watch the game. You look at the divisions and you say, wait a minute. I don't need to be an expert, a general manager or a manager. You literally just watch the same game. So that's where I've been mad of like just the storyline. If you look at the storyline, the White Sox storyline versus like the St. Louis Cardinals, they're like, we suck. Like this is the worst season ever assembled. Because dude, when you look at the team on paper, again, it's a lot of potential. Andrew Vaughn, who's to this point, if we're going to talk about the positives, has played pretty well. You've had flashes of Jake Berger when I think he's just a power hitter. He's put numbers up. The guys that have been healthy, even Tim Anderson, people think he sucks. He hasn't been great. Benintendi leading off has been awesome. You see Panteras probably on his way to have his best career year ever. You see, things together. You see Lance Lynn be the worst pitcher in baseball. You see Lance Lynn be the best pitcher in baseball. So I think you can work with that as a team because you're not always going to be good. You're not always going to be bad, but they just can't do it a couple of days in a row. And that's something that in the first half, I'm disappointed. And again, even if they go on a run, man, in the second half and they get into the playoffs, unless they win the World Series, I think that they might be in a situation where the following year, you're in a position where your team is not as good as it was. And then you start getting into this world where currently active, you got Anaheim, 7 seasons without a winning record, Kansas City at 6, Detroit at 6, Tigers at 6. And then you go in the all-time, you see Boston, 15 years, Baltimore, 14 years, Seattle, 14 years. When teams make bad decisions at one point in their history,
it's going to cost you a decade.
It could cost you a decade. And you think it's boring right now? you think it's going to be boring and hard to watch the blackout show on the White Sox right now because we're being negative? Imagine watching every single year the stupid draft that's coming up, where we're thinking about futuristic players. They're not going to be up. Like, they're going to be up when my daughter's like in middle school, and she's like in first grade right now. Like, that's just sad. Like, there's nothing happening here. It's just, dude, we're looking at Montgomery. I'm catching myself going and looking at Montgomery highlights to see if the guy's actually going to be good or not. That's where I think I don't want to go. That's why they need to figure it out, make some moves. Because here's the thing, before I head it off to Gonzo, even with them making moves, this team is going to win the same amount of games with the guys they trade away or without the guys they trade away. I still think that this team wins at most 5 games over 500 if they go on a crazy run, and I can still think they can go on that run even if they trade guys away. Because the guys they're going to trade away are not always that consistent. Graveman, Kelly, Ronaldo, maybe one of the starting pitchers. Those guys haven't been perfect the whole year. So I think if you take them away, they still have the same record in a trade, for the second half.
Yeah, OJ, so I'm going to take a step back because before the season started, I thought this team was going to win 89 to 90 games. A month into the season, that went from that to me going, wow, this team probably will not even win the division, in a terrible division. And that's just going from Han saying we're going to, don't talk to me until we're in the parade to this moment. It just is very disturbing. So when I pop this question of what is your first half takeaway, I just want to put that, and granted, I know everyone on Twitter right now is talking about Luis Robert Jr., which rightfully so, with his performance as of the past month. By all means, go on it. But my first half takeaway for this season is the maturation of Dylan Cease. Getting to that third pitch, because I've seen it in glimpses last year of him going to that knuckle curve and change up, because for the most part, he's been sticking to 2 pitches for the last 2 years, gaining 225 strikeouts in each of those last 2 seasons. And I knew for him to become that pitcher of elite status, to get to that next step for himself, I want to see him gain a third pitch to get hitters off of their toes. Because with the run on his fastball the last 2 seasons, it was pretty abysmal. So the fact that in this season, not only has he gained traction on the run value on his fastball, but when his slider wasn't working, he started the season with a knuckle curve with a whiff rate that was off the charts. That he was there. He's there with that third pitch, and ever since the last month, which is like 8 starts now, that ERA's down to just at 4. That's going to keep dropping of where he's at right now, and the only thing I want to see from here with him gaining that third pitch is really being more effective in the counts and going an extra inning into his outings, into the 6th. And I think he's right there. He's one of the best arms in the game. And I'm excited. The arrow is pointing up, and all I want to see out of this core is guys proving themselves, not only after 1 season. This is now Cease's 3rd year of proving that talent. And I want to see not only him, but Robert continue on his pathway into a full season. And this is where potential meets proven talent. And this is what I want to see with guys who should be staying, like Cease, like Vaughn, like Robert. These are those talents that are starting to prove themselves, and I'm here for it. And that's just something I couldn't say in the past couple of years of guys being able to prove their talents. And I'm excited for what is to come.
So, as far as, okay, let's just take Andrew Vaughn. How close do you think he's gotten to his ceiling, let's just say this year right now? Take his numbers and his production. Do you think he's gotten closer to his ceiling? Or do you think this is a down year for a guy of his talent and of his bat work?
This is something that's interesting, because when you've been, it's really stunned his development too. But when you've been playing him out of position, he hasn't had a positive WAR since being in the major leagues. And we've seen him last season, for example, for the first 5 months of the year, his batting average was at 300, but the power wasn't there. And now he's showing some pop, but the contact has brought that batting average down. It started to dip. So, but however, the WAR is now above 1 because he's actually at his natural position playing solid defense. So for me, I want to start seeing, I think that with the contact that he naturally makes, I think the power numbers will be there. I just want to see him making more contact and staying true to himself. I know we, said a month or two ago, we don't know if he's pulling it to pull it or what the, head and coaches are telling him. But for going forward here, I'm excited that now that he is actually at his natural position, that the WAR is going to be there. I'm just excited to see where those numbers finalize at, because I know Justin, we're like halfway there, and he's got 12 home runs, 52, 51 ribbies around there. So he's on his way to be, putting up numbers of it, around 100 ribbies, and probably the home runs is going to be between 20 to 25-ish. So I think that's good numbers as far as getting back to that position that he was meant to be at.
I just think that with Vaughn, it's been kind of crazy because the quality of contact hasn't been there this year. That's why the batting average is so low. I feel like he's left a lot of RBI on the table, but the team as a whole is terrible with runners in scoring position. Not saying that Vaughn is terrible, but I'm saying there could be improvement there. I feel like he struck out in situations where, like, even 2 years ago, his rookie season, he wasn't striking out in. I feel like he's turning the barrel of the bat over and he's trying to yank everything and get that OPS and that slug of drive everything into the gap, when we were just talking about Luis Robert, when a single to right field is just as productive as that RBI double in the gap with guys on and already in scoring position. So I just feel like some of his outs have been wasted, like a lot of more unproductive outs this year than last year.
Look at Junior's eyebrows raised with
you seen him eyebrows right there.
Oh, productive outs. You know what? I don't expect Andrew Vaughn to hit 30 home runs this year. I think that he might be in the wheelhouse for 20 to 25. I like his doubles to increase, but if I'm thinking why the White Sox have struggled this first half, I'm not thinking Andrew Vaughn. I really am not. I really am not. He's played great first base. If I'm going to be here and tell you that the White Sox missed Jose Abreu in the first half of the season, I'd be full of shit, honestly, because I don't think that he would have made a difference this year. Again, he's a great player and he's done, but I don't think the issue is like an Andrew Vaughn issue at first base. I think that he's done decent enough to be there, and I think those numbers are going to develop. But I don't think he's going to be a 50 home run hitting guy. I think 20 to 25, and again, average being better, playing better defense. Again, adding more productive outs. I think the RBIs. I don't have the stats here. Maybe the nerds out there can help me out. But like, how many times did Andrew Vaughn come up with like runner at third base, drive the run in? How many times at second base, move the runner over when be able to score? But when I'm thinking Andrew Vaughn, I'm not thinking this is the reason why the White Sox have sucked in this first half.
I think what you said there, Jay, is important because we got to think, like, not only is his numbers slightly down, but even Robert, with those power numbers he's putting up, he's got 25 ribbies and only 46 ribbies, 25 homers, 46 ribbies about. And
right,
like, even if you look at a guy in right field like Jermaine Dye, when he was putting up high home run numbers, the lowest his production was around 76 ribbies as the low end. So that means if he ends around there, I'd be disappointed because, like you said, guys just aren't getting into scoring position, getting on base, let alone but getting into scoring position for those productive outs. Like what he could have done last night, he has a big home run, and then next thing you know, Timmy gets that triple. He's stranded at third base because Robert didn't get that productive out to score him. So it's frustrating, but again, it's something that that Grifol needs to harp on here in the second half and to really score with these guys getting on base.
You know what? Since you want to open up a can of Grifol, let's get right to it. This is Grifol's Grounds.
I don't have a problem making decisions. I don't have a problem making a call on on a pitcher. I don't have a problem making a call on whatever our team needs at this particular moment.
And this is Grifol's grounds. And guys, let's face it, yesterday you put Kelly in a high leverage situation after he blows up a game in Oakland. And sure enough, he does it again right after Robert gives us a lead. What is our thoughts on Pedro so far in the first half? And OJ, I want you to start this off because I think your analysis
nasty
should be
work.
spot on for a first half for a rookie manager.
You know what? I think that Pedro, I was expecting more of Pedro in the first half, to be honest with you. I think that Pedro's highlight, and I love the intro when he says, I'm not scared of doing this and I'm not scared of doing that. By the way, best post-game analysis of anyone of recapping the game. If you haven't watched the game, watch Pedro's post-game. He'll recap it for you, both offensive and defensive, and not answer anything. But getting serious now, I got to give him credit. I think the best move he's made all year was the Pantera snap that I predicted that was going to be the first guy he snapped on.
You were on it.
And it's funny because it's the least thing that he brags about. But when he snapped on Pantera, it woke him up. And don't know why we haven't seen more of that, because that's been a huge factor for him. That's his best player right there. He likes to get too cute. I think he wants the players to like him. That's an issue off the field again. But his in-game managerial skills, here's some things that I critique. You said that this was going to be a fundamentally sound team. Not fundamental. That's on your whole staff. But again, that could be on the players, even though you want to execute. These are things that you control. You said this lineup was going to be analytical. I don't care who's making the lineup, if it's Kenny, if it's Rick, if it's Jerry, if it's Southpaw, if it's Rick Hahn, if it's Rick Renteria, if it's Pedro Grifol, if it's a combination of all of them. There's no way in that lineup that you would have lasted this long with the current lineup that you're running. Okay? It took him way too long to be able to make that move. And even the day before he made the move, he said he would never make the move. Okay? So that puts you in predicaments of, oh my God, would I play this? Not playing Jake Berger enough. So playing time on players has been iffy at times, picking certain guys, not playing minor league guys that just got called up, falling in love with players, falling in love with guys out of the bullpen has been an issue. But I think he's been horrible at managing the bullpen, meaning he's always seems to bring in the wrong guy. Again, I don't know what analytics are looking at. Managing is not easy, but not getting help from the bullpen on that end. The other one that I critique is the other day in Oakland, this might be a little bit deep to most fans out there. He was pinch hitting for guys and making defensive replacements in a game that's less than 3 runs with the opportunity for those guys to come up and hit again. You can't go into the game, even with the new runner on second rule, and not have somebody to run for somebody or somebody to be a pinch hitter. And he got lucky because of Carlos Perez got the triple or the double that he hit off from Zavala, but he had nobody left on the bench. Like if anybody would have gotten hurt or something, it would have been a pitcher. He was hooked. So that's really bad because you're not following the rules of like, oh, I got to keep some guys on. So that happens to him a lot. And people don't realize it when he goes in with a depleted bench. And he's been very lucky that has not come back and gotten him, which I don't put so much on him, but I'm like, what's his bench coach doing? Because you cannot let your manager do that.
And so that's a veteran.
That's a veteran. As a veteran. So I give him a C- because I really thought that Pedro on X's and O's was actually going to be better. I didn't think ever when thinking who Pedro Grifol is from a baseball standpoint, you were going to be worried about the bench being depleted. That's managing 101. The bullpen stuff, everybody's going to get better eventually. And he can say inconsistencies and, am I going analytical? Maybe he can argue saying TA was the heart of this team. I didn't want to move TA. So all those points are arguable. I'm not a huge fan of his press conference. Again, those are just press conferences just because he never really addresses it. I think that the Grifol that we've seen that's been the best has been a little asshole Grifol when he snapped on Pantera and Pantera was better. So I'd rather see that side of him. The guy that's been arguing, goes out and argues balls and strikes. Like than try to be the nice guy. Oh, I'm here and the feelings, and it's like Rick Hahn's version of the thing. It's just funny because I'm gonna give you guys a real quick one. Grifol announces that Pantera won the All-Star game that gets the bid. Beautiful moment for the kid. Bilingual manager. Pantera doesn't even know what the word hi means, it seems. He looked like he was so lost, whatever Grifol was saying. Never addressed him in Spanish or the team. So if the guy's a Spanish speaker, go say in Spanish, hey, congratulations, you've overcome stuff. You got it. Okay, to the American guys, and then say that. Why do we have a bilingual manager? What's this whole thing about being bilingual when the guys are sitting there's like this? And this was on YouTube. Like they filmed it. It's like, what was the whole point of having a bilingual manager? This guy's not going to use a bilingualness. So that's when it's like it's BS what they're selling. So that's why at times I'm giving him a C-. I hope for dear God, okay, that he improves, because if Grifol does not improve in the second half, and I'm not talking just about wins and losses, I'm talking about management of the lineup, meaning he decides to bench Colas. They bring Lenin Sosa up and he doesn't want to play him, and he starts making weird moves on that. He will get himself fired. Okay? Because I know that he was Rick Hahn's guy. I don't know if he was Kenny Williams' guy or Jerry Reinsdorf's guy.
I know he wasn't Jerry guy.
I don't know. I'm just saying, but I don't know. No, but I'm not talking about Pedro. I'm talking about, let's take Ozzy out of the equation and older guys. Out of all the young managers, I know that they had other guys in mind. So like, I know that when it's not your guy, you might say, oh, this guy wasn't good. So he was oversold. So I think that Rick Hahn needs him to be better. Okay. Because here's the thing, guys. Charlie Montoya was a big league manager. You fire Pedro, put Charlie as a manager. You know, like it's not that hard. It's like you're fired, you're the manager. If you don't want to waste time, depending on what they want to do. So I think I'm not judging him now on the second half of the season on wins and losses. I'm starting to judge him now on how he handles his day-to-day and like how he's handling these situations on the mount on bullpen management. It always seems like if a guy gives it up the night before, he brings up that guy in the same situation the next night so he can get himself out of it and like prove something to everybody. And that's not always the case because it has backfired on him. And the situation, again, like depleting his bench and not having anyone, that's at times, that for me is a huge one. I judge him a lot. But I give him a C minus at worst. I think he might have cost maybe a few games, but I don't think that this team is playing this bad because of like Pedro Grifol is just that horrible of a manager. But there are things that he needs to get better at.
I think that's expected for a first-year manager.
If Ozzy was a manager, he should get fired for that. Ozzy, Bochy, Gardenhire, Socha, Renteria, freaking Buck Showalter, Melvin, any of those guys are managing and they're playing like this, you fire them. They don't even get to the All-Star game. Grifol, first year, he's got to do a whole year.
Right. And like, because even if you go back to Tony La Russa, even early on in the season, he was making some like, I guess you can say, considerable or very questionable decisions with his pitching staff, but that's just because he was putting guys in spots to see where they're at in leverage situations and whatnot. But in his sake, as the season progressed, because he definitely put them in those situations early on that he learned from them, and as the season progressed, he know where to put guys at. Whereas in a situation like what I just brought up with Joe Kelly, he just failed previously in the series in Oakland, and you put him right back in that same spot. Like, for me, we always discuss like
against better hitters than the Oakland Athletics. It wasn't like you were going from the Athletics and then it was just like Cleveland or Detroit. No, you were going from fucking Ryan Noda to Vladdy Jr.
Exactly. And previously we discussed
that's a big jump.
Who's he going to lean on these situations? And I was really hoping that he would have realized the growth from Middleton and Santos to put those guys in those situations, so to see to allow them to prove themselves there, to see if they're going to, if you can lean on them. I think it's a lot. It would be more worth the shot to put those guys in that situation than it is for Joe Kelly to blow it up again, which he's done in previous series before. But again, Kelly's been hot and cold this year, but
John,
what we've seen as of lately, I would have preferred Middleton and Santos in that situation.
A question for you. I know you're the pitching guys. So how much money is Middleton and Santos making right now?
Not 7 million.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting to is that I think the White Sox, when you look at the positives, I think that they found two arms in Santos and in Middleton. That if you look at their production, don't look at the names, just look at what they've been able to do. They've been able to compete with these guys that are making a lot of money. Okay. And again, in baseball, people are always going to try to trade for the bigger name when it comes to relievers. That's just the way the business is done. But one of the things that surprises me about Pedro Grifol, okay, which when I compare him to a manager that was in the same situation as him, as a young first-year manager, was Ozzie Guillen. Ozzie went for all the guys that he thought were going to help him in the years to come. So he would take a chance on a Santos or on a Middleton, and when they would ask him, why did this guy fail? Neil Kotz, for example. Why did this guy fail? It's like, well, I want him to become the guy. I'm trying to grow him. So then they cannot ask you a follow-up question. Pedro seems to be doing the opposite. He's been managing more like a veteran manager, like Tony and Ozzie later on in his years, and other managers, where he's relying on the veteran guys, like they're going to be here next year. So like if you're going to compare who might get traded, the veteran guys probably won't be here because of money, and they're probably more tradable than these young guys. So just like what Gonzo just said, at times I'm surprised where he has not gone to the younger arms when you're building them up and they're truly Grifol guys. Like if Pantera this year plays more than 100 games, has his best year ever, I give that credit to Pedro Grifol and his staff and the trainers there, because that's his guy, because he did it under his tutelage. You got to give credit where credit's due. So I don't know why he's relying so much on the older guys and guys that are like veterans. I'd be going for all the young guys. Like, I'm here for 3 years. You guys want to rebuild next year or restructure? I'm all in, but I'm going in with my guys. He's really obsessed with the older guys, especially the older bullpen guys that are making a nice little moolah. And Santos and Middleton might be the most underrated pickups of the 2020-23 season, because they're very good.
But again, yeah. OJ, I feel like this is getting to politics over performance. And to me, this gets down to Han setting up these guys to drive their value up, to trade them, like you were kind of alluding to there. And we have a tweet about Han too, and that brings us to Stone Pony Tweets. And this is I know this is Jay's favorite segment for Stone Pony Tweets. And let's fire up Han's tweet, since we were just talking about Han, by our good friend of White Sox Twitter, Nick Morawski. He fired up a tweet on the Twitter, which was Han's quote from his the press conference from the media. And as you guys can read it for yourselves here on the screen, this is what Nick says here: reason to believe left a long time ago. And that belief was in the parade. So, Junior, as we look at this, what can we really believe in? Because we've never seen this core group really go on a really hot run to end the year, to make a run for the postseason. With Han's tenure here, all these guys had was a lead going into the postseason when they were good, and it really blew out in the second half. It wasn't vice versa, where we need it to go right now, which is going on a run. For me, I personally believe that he's going to be sitting on his butt right now at the deadline. I don't think he's going to do much, because I think his ego right now is ahead of him, and he fully believes in this core that he put together, and he's going to ride and die on that stake. What do you believe, OJ?
Well, I think that he'll ride or die, and then because he's gonna get fired or kept eventually. So why not do it with your players? Okay. The big difference between him and Kenny Williams, when people brought up the 2004 breakup of the team in the retooling, was that those guys were never Kenny Williams' guys. People forget that those guys were brought in by Ron Schuler. They were inherited by Kenny. So he really didn't have any loyalty when it came to, like, I brought this guy, I drafted that guy. He kept the guys that he wanted, the guys that he actually had brought in through his minor league system, which was the original core. And then everybody else, AJ, Jermaine, those were his guys. He brought those guys in with kind of like an idea of what Ozzie wanted, because what Ozzie said, they had a meeting and he said, what do you need? And Ozzie said, I need a guy like this. I need a guy like that. He took his notes. One guy, they had to go all the way to Japan to find him to fit the criteria of what they were looking for. But he basically found the guys. The only guy that Ozzie said, bring this guy was Freddie Garcia and Jose Contreras. But the other guys was 100% was him. So he's really good at doing that. The difference is that this is Rick Hahn's core. This is his baby. These are his kids. These are the guys that he drafted, signed, gave money to. So he's going to die with this core. And they always have the excuse of, well, they've always been hurt. That's a very dangerous excuse, because it's not like they went into a postseason run and then got eliminated in the first round because their best 3 players had broken hands. Okay. They haven't been able to go, when you look at the games consecutively won, they've never been able to go on like on a 10, 12 game winning streak. They never have. For some reason, they kind of just, they're a small win team. I was looking at a stat that in the year of 2020 of last season, if the White Sox would have not had those 2 losing streaks where they lost like 7 and 8 games and they would have been just 500, they would have won the division by like 6 games above 500 like that. So those stats make you worry. So number one, I think that Stone Pony tweet, it was actually one of the not as wild ones. This week was very, very wild on tweets in the White Sox world. I think that person who tweeted it is probably one of the more knowledgeable people and most honest and direct. I think he's very even keel when he talks about that. But man, I don't blame it. You know why, Gonzo? I can't say that I was one of those people, but I remember Rick Hahn having like Rick Hahn, Chuck Garfien, McCuffey, Ryan, probably Slacco, I remember, was probably in those things too. When they have like the what do they call those? When they the community and people would talk and ask questions, and they all joked around that he had a Twitter account. You know, that to me, he was very upfront. And this is how I'm going to build it. And he talked to the fans and very swagger. And he had the cojones to say that he was going to go to a parade. Like, that's ballsy, man. Like, your team, your franchise won World Series in 100 years. That's very ballsy to say. So he's been very upfront when it comes to that. So I can see how people are tired of the lies. Like, I made a joke. It says, it sounds like the president of the United States, like, you just say stuff and it's like, dude, you're like, this is not what you're saying, does not correlate to common sense. Like, what you're saying, I Google it and I get the opposite. It's getting to that point where you're like, what are you talking about? Like, who are you talking about? Like, what do you, so you get stories and you say like, okay, Colson Montgomery is going to be ready next year. Okay. And then they're like, okay, he's going to be up. And I'm like, to play where? You're not going to move TA. So like, they'll tell you half the story. So that's why I think fans are getting frustrated of like, this guy is full of, because he doesn't tell you the same thing. And it's like, he tries to be positive, but I think people are getting tired of it. And that's where talking and being nice is kind of backfires on you.
Well, and another thing too, the one thing that stands out for me with that quote is, what the hell is going to happen between now and August 1st that's just going to magically make all of this fucking disappear, Rick Hahn? You've given me the same team for the last season and a half. They've shown nothing to inspire me to believe that improvement is coming. Like, think about this. You brought in a first-year manager in a situation to where you have World Series aspirations. That was backwards within itself. So now all of a sudden you're sitting here in front of a microphone giving me the mystery date of wait till August 1st. Like, we see the calendar. No shit. There's months turning on the calendar with you not gaining ground in a division that we were supposed to be in the bag. You remember NBC White Sox was tweeting out, waiting for the rest of the Central to show up in an empty crib. That's going to be our trophy case. Fucking empty. I'm going to be telling my nephew about that one time the White Sox won the World Series in 2005. I'm going to have to blow the dust off the DVD. Like, OJ, you snapped when you said this could be a very real possibility where the White Sox could be trash, basura, for a decade.
That's what I'm scared of. That is real.
Very real.
That is very real. Okay, so In 1997, the white flag trade happens for a reason. Okay? They decided at that time when Ron Schuler was there that if they did not blow it up that close to the division, that they could be stuck with guys like my father who were making a substantial amount of money and key pieces for a very long time and watch this team get very, very old and start losing a lot of games. Okay? And just being under 500. If this team does not make the right moves, there's nothing worse than being 500. There's being under 500 and then having losing season after losing season because you did not prepare well enough in a season where you could have made trades. Let's take away the 2005 World Series. Okay, let's say in a scenario the White Sox choke in the World Series or the divisional series versus Anaheim. There's no drop third strike. There's no ball that goes through the legs. Kelvin Escobar's holding the ball when he tags Joe Creedy. The White Sox blow the series. After blowing game one, they get swept. Maybe pull one game, one victory. Anaheim advances. As a baseball person, do you not think that there was an improvement from an 04 to 05 on their roster? Because in 06, they won more games. They added another player in Jim Thome. They moved some pieces. They won just almost as many games, 90 games. So the team on paper got better. The other teams just got much better. They have an off year in 2007 with injuries, and they're back at it at 2008 competing. So that move that they made in 2004 gave the front office 5, 6, 7 was injury. That's what you can say.
Of
injury.
Strong competition.
Of 4 years of strong competition when they could have ended it there, and then they still went for it 9, 10, 11, and 12 for 4 more years. So for all of Ozzy's era was set up in the 04 season when they said, you know what, we need to change the. So right now, had the White Sox not made those moves, they might have stayed with Maglio and Carlos, and Ozzy might have been just like Jerry Manuel, right under 500, eliminated, maybe made one playoff, and he would have been fired in 2 or 3 years, and it would have been the next guy. But they made the right moves at the right time because it could get worse. So this, to me, right now, with the way the future is setting up and the way that the league is going around, dude, you don't have a catcher. Right now, you are calling every team that has a top prospect catcher, and you're saying, what do you want? Because your catcher situation is awful. Okay, right now, the catchers that they have brought in, all due respect to Seve Zavala, all due respect to Carlos Perez, who's a Venezuelan like myself and my family, the future looks very dark at that position. Because you're not going to re-sign Grandal, and if you re-sign him, it better be for absolutely nothing, because the value of him at the catching position is not what it used to be because of his injuries and whatnot. It'll just be all offensive. So you need to find someone there. So you need to use one of your prospects, big league ready guys, and bring somebody that can catch. Why? Dylan Cease is a nasty pitcher. He needs a good catcher. Michael Kopech is filthy and nasty. The nastier your staff is, the better of a defensive catcher that you need. Because if not, it doesn't go. Ethan Katz cannot prepare these guys to be the nastiest pitchers in Major League Baseball, and then have me behind the plate like this, like scared of the ball, and like you're watching the game the other night, and Bummer, whose best pitch is a slider, is second guessing himself if he should throw it or not because he doesn't know if it's going to be blocked or not. And there's a runner on third saying, "I'm probably going to take home." You can't do that. You can't do that.
So it's crazy that you brought this up. The Giants brought up a catcher by the name of Patrick Bailey, switch hitting, power hitting catcher. Been okay, decent offensively, been striking out a little bit, but whatever. Long story short, they didn't bring him up for his offensive skills. They brought him up to corral one of the nastiest pitching staffs in the National League. People don't understand. The Giants are above 500. They're above the Padres. They're above the Dodgers because they're starting pitching and their bullpen been lights out. And it's all because of Patrick Bailey being able to call a staff. That shit is so important, bro.
It's key. It's super important. In the game of analytics, they're talking about, this guy's the best framer. Oh, really? How many block balls does he have?
Yeah.
Okay. How many runners? Right now, the White Sox are the second team to get most stolen bases until the Dodgers. You don't think the Dodgers are thinking, man, maybe we get a defensive catcher? We might have to get one because that's what might take us to the next level. So I think that from a perspective of preparing yourself for the future, because I still think that if you take away pieces from this team, I don't think that you get worse. I really don't, because we've seen this team be injured so much throughout the last 3 years that there's been a 500 team with 2 or 3 or 4 guys missing. They've never been together. Like if it's Eloy's down, then TA's down. So like you could take away a piece and they can still be competitive, meaning in this crappy division at 500, getting better. You cannot let the Sean Murphys of the world opportunities pass you by.
Think about this, and I'm just going to lay this right on the table. The climax of the whole Rick Hahn rebuild, the climax of it was when Brian Goodwin and Billy Hamilton was getting regular at-bats. Let that sink in. This was the best White Sox team in the middle of the summer with TLR managing and Brian Goodwin hitting walk-offs against Karen
But Justin, why was it so hard for them to keep Oscar Colas but sign a guy like Michael Conforto? Why was that so hard?
Yeah.
And say we're gonna have a backup plan, and if the kid goes off, I'll figure out what to do with Conforto. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
You can always have right now. And White Sox fans, please don't cry. Don't cry about this. The Atlanta Braves are considering Tim Anderson to potentially be a backup player just in case Orlando Arcia or Ozzy Albies goes down. He will get his at-bats, but they're considering him because they're thinking if something happens down the line, we need a guy that can play the position and be able to go for it. Even when they have a shortstop who was an all-star and the best second baseman in MLB, they're considering a middle infielder to solidify their roster because they want somebody from the bench. They don't want to get somebody to get hurt and be like, who are we going to call up? You can't do that. And that's where this team needs to get better at doing that. And fans need to let players develop. Okay. People were like, this is the Pantera I was promised. Dude played for a COVID year, 60 games, and then he got hurt 2 years, less than 100 games.
I got something for you, OJ. We got some more tweets. Look at what King Mac just dropped on the TL.
I saw this stuff. King Mac.
Hold on. Let me read it to the people, OJ. This is from your grace, King Mac. BGR. Okay. Luis Robert should always be in the same conversation as Trout, Soto, Betts, Harper, Acuna. The only thing that held him back was injuries, and the big difference between them and him is he doesn't take as many walks, but he has the same amount of talent. Definitely special. You think he's biting off a little bit more than he could chew?
By the way, it's been a first half. Let the season finish. And then once the season finishes, you got a guy on that list as a 2-time MVP. Probably a Hall of Famer already. His name is Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper was in the freaking magazine, the Sports Illustrated, as a 10-year-old playing like high school baseball. That's Bryce Harper. Okay, you got Soto. The guy just got offered. He turned down $500 million. Soto said, no, Nationals, not my thing. And he went down. He's not even worth the $500 million. Okay, you got guys on that list. And that's when it's crazy. Maybe Byron Buxton, and Byron's had done it for 3 or 4 years, and he's had injuries. But that's where those comments are nutty. The fact that you're throwing this young player in the midst of guys that are solidified Hall of Famers. You can't do that, man. Like, you are going to put pressure on this guy. Like, let him develop. Eric Davis, an amazing player, could have been Ken Griffey Jr., injured his whole career. Ellis Burks, probably one of the baddest dudes in baseball, injured his whole career. Kevin Mitchell, go look up his numbers. Having numbers for 2 or 3 years. You need Greg Vaughn. There's guys that have destroyed the ball in Major League Baseball, but have not been able to stay healthy. Okay, health is a huge thing. How do we know that Pantera is not going to get unhealthy like Tim Anderson? Or do you think that cheating is if it's a mental thing? Let's talk about the mental. Because that's very easy to do. They're hot. They got money. That's very easy to do. So let's not talk about that. Let's talk about injuries, because I think Tim Anderson's issue is not a mental thing. I think the issue has been his knees. I also think that he worked with somebody in the offseason to give him some bad advice on hitting. He tried to get too cute. He needs to go find the old Tim Anderson when he knew nothing about analytics and just be Tim. Just see the ball, hit the ball. Don't forget about eye pitch analytics. Just go be Tim Anderson. That's the best Tim Anderson. You see the ball, you hit the ball. The American version of Jose Ramirez. Just be Tim Anderson. You got too cute. And he's struggling this year. You don't think Pantera's going to go through something like that?
It happens every 2 weeks.
It happens. It's baseball. So you can't go out there and put pressure on these guys the way that right now, to be honest, the only 2 players that I wouldn't move today is Pantera and Dylan Cease. just because of the futuristic project. Oh, and Crochet. Those 3 I wouldn't move. 3 guys that I'm like, these guys are untouchable. Ask for everyone else in my team. Those are just my guys, just because I like those guys, and I think that their potential is just very high. And I think they're way too young to give up on them. And they've been able to produce at an MLB level where you're like, oh my God, these guys could be very scary. Anybody else in the right situation, I would consider making a move if it's going to make the team better. But I would not just go out flat and say, I'm not getting rid of so-and-so. I'm not getting rid of so-and-so. Because, and here's the part where Rick Hahn really needs to look into his development. How sure are you that Colson Montgomery is going to be good? Okay, for example, in the middle infield position, or Popeye, or the other guys, because you get rid of TA and he goes somewhere else and you don't have somebody to replace him with, it's not happening in free agency because Marcus Simeons cannot be cloned, or Seager, because they've all been signed. That's just we did this a couple shows ago. So I think that's where you need to be honest with yourself. And I said Gonzo used the word, and that's something that really scares me because my father suffered from it. And I tell myself every single thing, that's something I tell myself in the morning every single time. Bury my ego before I let my ego bury me. Ego is one of the most dangerous things in the game of baseball. I saw it take down Ozzie Guillen and Kenny Williams when they used to work together. They were both geniuses just because they were so stuck in their ways and their egos were so big. Huge egos, both of them, that they couldn't come back to eye to see. And your ego can bury you. It can happen to you as a player when you don't want to get help in a certain thing or in a certain aspect. It happens in your real life. The White Sox egos, them saying, F everything, we're going to stick to the plan and it not work. Or we're not going to bring the right manager that we need because of stuff in the past. Or we're not going to move away from Grifol and put so-and-so in a bench coach because anything that your ego is getting in the way, this is when they need to bring in the whole organization and make sure that you're not making a decision or not making a decision based on ego because, oh, well, we traded Fernando Tatis for James Shields and look what happened. So we're not going to trade away, a Colson because he might become, the next, Derek Jeter, whatever. You got to be able to make the right decision at the right time when it happens, because if not, it could really be a detriment. And your ego is probably one of the most destructive things that I've seen in the game of baseball, let alone the game of life. And that's something that you need to be careful with.
As far as catching goes, before we move on, you drafted a guy in 2016 by the name of Zach Collins.
Oh, God.
Regardless of his development in this organization, you traded him away. You didn't take a shot at him.
No.
And then when you could have taken a shot at Sean Murphy several times, when are you going to correct that? You showed you couldn't draft it, and you showed you wouldn't go after it, but through trade. I don't think you're going to go through it at free agency. You need to do something. A guy like you just mentioned, Colson Montgomery, me personally, I'm trading him. I think you got better value in your organization than him at shortstop and third base, actually. But I would trade him for equal value elsewhere in another organization. I've been mentioning Dalton Rushing for over the past month and a half already. Go get that guy. I don't care what it takes. I really don't. Then again, I say that, but I probably don't trust this organization to complete that guy's development either, because he's the Dodgers' futures game catcher. So he's just one step away, and I'm not sure if I even trust our guys to do that. But I still believe in that kid. That's a guy I would like to go get. But you gotta find a way to do something, because you got a lot of holes, and you gotta do whatever it takes to sell pieces to retool. Han needs to figure this out because he put himself in this position. Justin, lead us to Southside Daily. this is, as you know, Southside Daily. We've got a doubleheader tomorrow because of the postponement of tonight, and you're likely going to have game 1, Barrios versus Lance Lynn, and then game 2 is going to be Kikuchi versus whoever the minor league guy that is going to come up on the doubleheader. I think that's what they're going to go with, and then they stay at home Friday through Sunday. Friday, Montgomery versus our boy Dylan Cease. Saturdays, McColas versus Giolito. And Sundays to be announced. But I think if I had to guess, it's going to be the bullpen game. I guess you can go bullpen game in game 2 tomorrow if you want, but I would hold off and bring a rookie up like Sean Burke. And then in Sunday's game, throw Tuki Toussaint to start that game to end it before the All-Star break. And then, when they come off the All-Star break next Friday, it's going to be a 3-game series in Atlanta. But before we go off to the Atlanta series, Justin, let's look at this St. Louis club here Friday through Sunday at home. Your boy, we like to call you Goldenado in some groups, but Nolan Arenado batting .280, 16 home runs, 57 ribbies, and then you got Donovan as well as a nice rookie on that club. They got a lot of nice
Nolan
rookies.
Gorman, Alec Burleson. They just got Dylan Carlson back. Jordan Walker has been beating the shit out of baseballs. Gonzo, I'm going to be honest with you, this Cardinals series is going to be the last nail in the coffin before the All-Star break. I predict we're going to get cream pied. We're going to get destroyed.
Pause.
Are we the team? Wait. Are the Sox a team that get the Cardinals back on the path to the comeback?
That's what I was about to say, OJ. This series for the Cardinals, this is the get back on track. The Cardinals are going to use the White Sox to springboard 20 wins in a row, perhaps. This is the get back series. That lineup is American League built. Power throughout, very versatile. It's amazing that they've been struggling so much, but if you look at their rotation, you could understand why. When Jordan Montgomery is your best pitcher on the staff, you're going to have some issues. Of course, when you don't have a bona fide closer and you're using Giovanni Gallegos like a $2 whore, you're going to have issues.
Don't forget Hicks.
Wilson Contreras is off to the worst 3.5 months of his career.
He's been hot lately, though. He's been hot. So I think the best thing that happened to the White Sox was this rain delay and playing 2 tomorrow, because it's very hard to sweep 2 games, and they'll steal 1 game away from the Toronto Blue Jays. Because I think that had they played tonight and then tomorrow, their chances of getting swept would have been that much crazier. And so with 5 games left, they have a chance to potentially go 42-50 or 37-55. So being in between in there. And I think one of the things for the Cardinals that we got to see is that there's rumors that tonight, as we do this show, the Cardinals manager will be canned. Fired. Bete, Botaro. I don't know who they're going to bring. He should be fired. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to bring Yadi from the back. That would be funny and crazy. Yadi to manage the rest of the season. Give him a shot. But you know what? I like what Gonzo was saying. And because you're talking about an American League lineup, and when Gonzo's talking about the bullpen day, I would love them to use one of those games against the Cardinals as an opportunity to use those arms that we're trying to see get tested and give them a start. See what happens. You know, don't try to push those guys too much. So I really believe that.
Lose my number, Greg.
I like this series. I don't know, man. I think for some reason I think that the White Sox are going to finish stronger in this last part and make it really hard for Rick and the guys to make a decision.
OJ, what would you say if I told you? Would you take a chance on a guy like Flaherty?
On pitching?
Would you trade for him? He's been struggling with his control over there, but
Ethan
maybe
Katz is Ethan Katz is what I would call Ethan Katz, and I invite him to dinner, lunch, maybe because of the brunch, because we're in season, and I'm not going to take away his off day. I would have a one-on-one conversation with him. I'm Rick Hahn, and I would talk to Ethan, and I say, hey man, give it to me for real on Flaherty. What do you think's up with him? Just because I know that it's happened a lot with Don Cooper. They wanted to trade for Strasburg. They wanted to trade for this guy. That's how Freddie Garcia got here. Jose Contreras. You know, you talk to the guys, you talk to your staff. And in this case, Flaherty has a relationship with Ethan Katz. He's a young arm. Okay. I think that you could trade him. I don't know what they're looking for, like for right now, but if you can flip for like a Lynn because they're going to go whatever, or minor league guys. But if you can,
it's going to be a minor league guy because he's unrestricted free agent next year.
Correct.
So he's going to be a rental.
So just give him Brian Ramos and just bring him to the club.
So if he's a rental. So here's the part where I find it interesting. Ethan Katz, number 2. I always think that the best way to convince a guy is to have him in your team. Okay. That also could be the worst thing, but you can have him in the culture. Hey, bring it here. If Lucas Giolito is in your plans, man, your plan becomes Cease, Giolito, Flaherty, Kopech, Clevenger. You can fix Flaherty. Damn. And they just have to be 500. They don't have to even just go off the rails and just let Cease. I think that you can fix your pitching problem. And that's where the White Sox are like weird at right now. I think that they're closer to being like pitching elite than being hitting elite. So they need to do something about the pitching situation. Are they going to sign Giolito? Who are they going to get rid of? So Flaherty becomes that interesting. I like Flaherty personally, but I like that connection to Ethan Katz. And I really, really like Flaherty. And I think you have a better chance of landing him now and extending him than you. And again, how close is Ethan Katz to Flaherty? Hey, try to trade and sign. What are you looking for? Pull the strings. I know for a fact I was on the phone with Freddie Garcia. Trade and sign. What do you want? His agent hated it, but we knew exactly what it was going to take. And Rick Hahn said we can afford him. And so from that sense, so you can use those. That's when you use those the influence. But I like him because the Ethan Katz connection. I think that his velocity is on. I think that he might just need a change of scenario, and he solidifies your pitching staff. Out of all the names that are out there, I think he's one of the better ones. I like the Flaherty one.
But you don't think the Cardinal way is a better situation than the Chicago White Sox? Don't get me wrong, the Cardinals are in total.
I don't know that. I don't know what the Cardinals are trying to do. So like, if they're trying to maybe get a piece for the future, if I was the Cardinals, I'm trying to fix them and keep them and try to go for it. I'm the Cardinals. I'm trying to keep them in. If I'm the Cardinals, I'm trying to trade for Lance Lynn. If I'm the Cardinals, I'm trying to trade for Lucas Giolito. If I'm the Cardinals, I'm doing the opposite because I got the guys there for the long run. I got Nolan Arenado. I got Paul Goldschmidt.
You've already called up Jordan Walker, Dolan Gorman, so ain't no turning back now.
Yeah, there ain't no turning back. You fire your manager and you ride that. You ride that and that division's weak. And when you look at that lineup, they've done it before. They've gone on crazy runs. They've played in the playoffs.
And then
they've
you got to think
credentials.
about it too. It is losing Jack Flaherty. Like, they're looking to make a sustained run. What if he's a part of their plans to make that run?
So I would like it to be the White Sox to get him, but I'll be 100 with you. If I'm the Cardinals, I'm calling the White Sox to get their bullpen pieces and to get a starting piece. So I would do the opposite. I try to get Lucas Giolito there and maybe bring
the Cardinals
one of the bullpen
could
guys.
use Kenyon Middleton. I ain't going.
Yeah, I would trade. And then here's the White Sox. Who is the top prospect catcher in the Cardinals organization? He's in the package. Whoever's the top guy, I'm bringing him. Their top guy could be the 50th guy on their list. I'm bringing him. And I give him a shot. Dude, they never gave Zach Collins a shot in the White Sox. Seby Zavala has played more consistent than Zach Collins.
Seby Zavala is a Hall of Famer. What is Zach Collins?
But I'm just saying, though, like, that makes no sense. Like, you drafted, for example, when they traded for the guy from the Braves, what's his name? Ozzie was a manager. He was a top prospect for the Braves. He was supposed to be AJ's
Jordan
replacement.
Schaefer?
No, the catcher. No, not
Tyler
Jordan.
Flowers?
Tyler Flowers. He was traded. Him and Brett Littlebridge were traded as a future shortstop and the future catcher of the future. There were a lot of things, not either of those things. But Tyler got a shot, and he played a couple years in the big leagues as an everyday catcher. But he got a legit shot, and they moved away from AJ, and that was the catcher because they made a move for him, a very big move, but he got his shot. We never saw that with Collins. So when you bring your prospects up, you have to give them a shot in order for you to see that what they have. Because the guys that they've brought in the catching position, even to fix it, they've never been solid for the future. So I would any team that I'm trading with, I'm looking at the catching position, to be honest. I really am. I'm not looking at first base. I'm not looking at third base. I'm not looking at a corner outfield. I'm not looking at any of that. I'm looking at catcher. Like, I'm looking at specific roles of what can be helped. A middle infielder that can play short or second, future shortstop. I'm not looking at another lefty batter power guy that can play either first or right. I'm not doing that.
Now, before we go on to our picks, White Sox come out of the All-Star break in a 3-game series in Atlanta. Justin, I don't know what the starting matchups are going to be for that 3-game series, but we know that they're going to go up against Acuna, who's batting .337, .414, .594 for a /9. Olsen's .248, 28 home runs, 68 ribbies. This is going to be a home run fest in Atlanta, and I don't know how Han can go in that press conference today, say we're going to go on a run, and we're starting in Atlanta.
He forgot. He didn't know it was Atlanta, Gonzo. By the way, Atlanta, I just watched Atlanta play the Tribe. That's a juggernaut. By the way, they have everyone in the All-Star game is either on the Braves now in the starting infield, or we're on the Braves in the last 3 years. The White Sox wanted to be the Braves. That's what we were promised. But they are not even the little brother of the Braves. The Braves are a juggernaut. Like, they already won one World Series. They might never win another one again. But in season, they are the epitome of OMG. They have built a powerhouse. So that's a very scary series. Hopefully they win one game.
So, Justin, tell us about Michael Harris.
Well, a 5-tool player, one of the most dynamic outfielders in the game. And I'm going to take it a step further, Gonzo. We're catching him at his peak performance of the season. He's been absolutely on fucking fire. My co-host for BGR, Shy 9, he has him in fantasy and has been terrorizing the league, reminding us every day that Michael Harris is a spectacular
Is he the best black player in baseball now?
No, Mookie Betts is still alive and well.
Oh, you don't think Michael Harris is better than Mookie right now?
Hell no.
Okay.
No.
We'll say that for another time.
What about De La Cruz?
No, he's not black.
Yeah, he don't count. He's Hispanic.
So let me tell you something, Gonzo. If you ever reference anybody with the last name De La Cruz is black again, we're going to send some paperwork to your residence.
Well, now, you should probably send it to Elise.
I am a delusional White Sox fan, so apparently, since I said we're going to get cream pied by the Cardinals in typical Justin Lee fashion, we're going to take 2 out of 3 from Atlanta in the Chop House, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to give you a list of names. AJ Minter, Kirby Yates, Nick Anderson, Raisel Iglesias, fucking Colin McHugh. The bullpen for the Atlanta Braves have been absolutely abysmal. They've been having a tougher time than the Cardinals trying to figure out the 7th, 8th, and 9th. I feel like with all-stars like Zach Remillard and future Hall of Famers Oscar Colas, we could do some damage. We just got to make sure we get to that part of the Braves. Because even look at the rotation with Soroka coming back, he's been throwing BP. There is no Max Fried. Okay, all they have is probably Bryce Elder and the ghost of Jesse Chavez, but I don't even know if he's off the IL. The pitching of the Braves is very vulnerable right now.
Are you telling me that we're going to see a Dylan Cease versus Spencer Strider matchup?
Hopefully it's not leg day.
Spencer Strider has been one of the worst starting pitchers in the league. So
is that the guy with the legs? That's leg guy, right?
Yeah.
He stole his mustache.
His nickname is Quadzilla.
Dude, he's like what Dylan Cease would look like on steroids.
Probably is on steroids.
But
by the way, with those legs, trust me, I'd be testing him.
I'd be
We're
testing
taking 2 out of 3 from Atlanta.
All right. Well,
you know what? I like that, Justin. That's not crazy. I like real quick. I like it because they're playing Atlanta right off the All-Star break, so those guys might be like still in vacation mode. So,
yeah.
Well, on that half, we are going to our picks of the week, which
I'm not going to let you do it. Like, for all the listeners out there, before we cut to the graphic, Gonzo was going to say, before we get to the pick to click, which I won. I know how that movie was going to go.
I actually was going to say I won. I just totally forgot we had a graphic for picks to the week. But thanks, Jay. Thanks for cutting me off. I wasn't ready for my own animation.
I was scared.
I even forgot what I was going to say because you cut me off. So, since you cut me off, yes, Justin, I won. Hi, Mom. Eloy won. Going 10 for 25.
By the way, this game is called the I Win. Gonzo's like, I win.
I win.
This is my daughter. What are we playing? I win. I win. Every time we play, she wins.
You guys are laughing at me because I was creeping up on y'all in the standings, and now I'm ahead, Slav. I hope you're watching because I'm like the
Cardinals. He's the Cardinals.
Yep. Eloy had 8 ribbies and 2 home runs last week.
Wow.
And I think that's what I was going to say when you cut me off. I was going to say, which we have 8 games this week because we got, let's see, we got 2 tomorrow, 3. We got 5 games here going before the All-Star break, and then we have 3 games coming off of it. So 8 total because the next show is going to be the Tuesday when we come back from after the All-Star break. So, yeah, we have 8 games for these picks. And my pick, since Eloy is off the board, I'm going to go with the man that is washing his lumber as he hits bombs. I'm going with the home run. I'm going with the home run king at the Derby. He's probably just going to make it to the second round because he's going to beat Adley. But, yeah, I'm going with La Pantera. Junior, you are on the clock.
Wait, you're going with La Pantera?
Yes.
Oh, man, you took my guy.
I know.
I'm going to go with, man, in that case, you know what? I'm going to go with Benny.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Benny again.
All right.
That's good because Benny's been on a roll lately.
Yeah, no, he's been good.
Give me a second. I'm trying to look at Slav's. What was his first selection again? Let's look back here. Sheesh.
He almost won the Tim Anderson one.
Slav is going. Yeah, I know. He was a foul ball away from winning the click with that almost.
You sound like Bartman.
All right. Slavko goes with Tim Anderson. That was his first selection. So, Justin, are you going to end this with a winning pick? You are on the clock.
I'm going to follow in Slavko's footsteps, and I am going to pick a black man as my pick to click. I'm going Kenyon Middleton, and I'm telling you right now, if he gives the White Sox 3 holds out of this 8-game stretch, I automatically win.
Okay.
What?
By the way, it's not going to happen because Grifol won't put him, so to do 3 holds.
Jay, are you trying to become last place?
Oh, yeah.
What are you
trying to take?
I'm thinking the best players available.
He thinks he takes a draft pick. He thinks he gets a draft pick.
Jay, what's your purpose in picks to click? I thought when you said black, you're going to hit me with, like, I don't know.
TA?
No. I can't even say Colas because you're going to tell me he doesn't count.
He doesn't. He's
Latino.
You want me to pick Daryl Boston?
Might as well with Middleton with 3 holds.
Don't worry about that.
When's the last time he had 3 holds?
Don't worry about it.
You know something we don't know.
Went deep.
Good point.
So, chat, the picks are up on the board. You're seriously going with Middleton?
It's already typed and written up. Then you're going to say that.
Our picks are, I'm going with La Pantera. OJ is going with Benny. Slav is going with TA. Jay.
I want to predict the Celeste Pantera when he goes in the home run derby. Where do you guys think he goes? What place?
Jay's picking Middleton. Yeah, Fifth. I think. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 5th too.
I think he gets a first round out. How many people are competing? 6?
No, like 12.
No, there's 8, right?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, 8 guys.
There's 8
But
guys.
he could beat Adley Rutschman though.
That's what I'm saying. I think he's coming out of that bracket on the left side. I'm trying to remember who after he beats Adley, who he goes up against. Oh, Julio. I think he goes up against Julio and then beats Julio out.
I want to see Luis Robert and Adolis Garcia go at it.
Yeah, that'd be great. I know MLB won't be rooting for Adley Rutschman. The epitome of no swagger.
So, what else, guys? Anything else you want to end the show on?
Well, I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you guys are true White Sox fans and you really believe in your team, because you can think they're going to go all the way, the White Sox plus 1,600 to be the division winners. And then if you really think that they're that good, you are going to bet that they're going to win the league. 10,000 plus 10,000. You can bet right now. So if you bet that they're going to win the league, you put a measly $10, you can win $1,000.
Is there any All-Star Game odds right now for Home Run Derby?
Let me see. MLB player specials. No, I don't see anything All-Star Game related right now. Probably they're gonna wait. Probably not far enough. But the divisional leader right now, the White Sox. If you are Rick Hahn, you are putting money. It's plus 1,600. You bet 10, you win 160. You bet 100, you win $1,600. I don't think I'm taking the White Sox, but I am taking the Cardinals bet. I'm taking the Cardinals at plus 1,300 and plus 4,000.
And real quick, guys, you have any shout outs before we end this broadcast?
Shout out to my guy Gabe. Woo! I saw that he was on earlier. Much love.
Yes, Gabe was with us here in the chat. And also, let's give a shout out to Mike Martin, who's been with us for the night as well. Thanks for watching, Mike. Justin, you have any shout outs for the evening?
I want to give a shout out to you guys, my Blackout crew. You guys helped me get through this fucking lousy season without me crying and shitting all over myself. It's been an honor to work with you guys in our rookie year. Hopefully, there's a lot more to come. I don't care what you say, OJ. We're going to get on the mic and talk about this team, even if they're under 500 for a decade. Shout out to Bad Guy Radio, other podcast platform that listens to me complain about this damn team. But ultimately, I went to the Red Sox game last week with Asia. Then we followed it up with going to see the squad against the Blue Jays this week. It's still a beautiful game to watch at the ballpark, even though the team is shitty. See a lot of good players from the American League. I'm having a great time. Even with the White Sox are trying to ruin my life, they still find ways to take up some of my time and most of my money.
Very fair. Now, my shout out is going to go to Soraya, who's always sponsoring me every single episode. And a shout out to you, OJ, and you, Justin. I think you said rightfully, Justin. This is a great way to begin the first half of our rookie season with more to come. I know we've had on not only OJ's father and senior, but we had on Pods back in episode 14, and we have more guests to come as we go into the second half. So I am Gonzo. To my left or right, depending on your perspective, is Justin Lee, and to his other side is Ozzie Guillen Jr., and we are missing our other boy, Slavko, but he'll be back with us after the break. And if you haven't already, go and like, subscribe, follow the Guillen Grid on YouTube or Blackout Show Shy on both Twitter and Instagram. Blackout Show on Facebook. Then go and hit up our Spotify for Blackout Show or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast streaming services. This is episode 17 of The Blackout. Goodbye, Southside. Beep, beep.